my kids, my son-in-law.
No kid.
Seniors.
Anyway, we're learning a little Nishmas, the Vorabas, Avram Yeshua, Rabbi Yabi's mother-in-law. He spoke very highly about her, and the Neshama should have an Aliyah. Okay, we're up to Kuf Tes Vav Amid Beis, Kuf Tes Amid Beis, a little Agadata tonight. Okay, so Amar 3 lines in the bottom. Akol Kashem Lahakriv, right? Akol Kashem, all animals you can be makriv. Menani mili. Amar V'hu Navakrov. Vayiben Noach Mizbech Lashem. Vayikach Mikol HaBehem HaTohira Umikol Oif HaTohar Behema Kimashmo. In other words, we're going to go back over to Brisa. You could say you could bring behemoths and you could bring chayas on a bama. You can bring all these cases on a bama. And so, where do you know that from? Where do you know that from? Because it says, and Noach built a mizbeach, and he took from all the behemoths and the chayas v'chal behema. Sechorim v'nekevos, tamimim ubal mumim, lafuke mechusa aver. Skip down, excusing, but chusrei, if it's missing a limb, that is a mum that you would not be able to bring as a carbon. Delot. Amar balaza minayin mechusa aver shenesal b'nei Noach. Ayin mechusa aver is also to b'nei Noach. Tamaloymar mikol achai mikol basa. It says mikol achai mikol basa. Amar Torah hava behema shechayin roshan evarim shalah. So the achai, bring an animal that all its limbs are living, as opposed to what? Them mechusa an eva. When it says bring an animal that's a chaya, maybe it's mutei a treifa because a treifa can't live. It says hahu melachaya zera nafka. It says that Adam should go ahead. Noach should bring l'chaya zera, bring an animal, right, that can procreate. And the havamina now is the Mandiyama holds that a treifa will not be able to procreate. So therefore, I know you can't bring a treifa. And so therefore I use chaya not to teach me life, but to teach me that it has all its limbs intact. Very good. That you can learn out from a chaya zera that a treifa would not be acceptable as a carbon because treifa can't procreate. There's an idea that the treifa could procreate, and therefore l'chayra. So maybe chaya is referring to a treifa, not for a mechusei bar. It says Gemara. Ha'makra itach, l'chayos itach, to live with you, right? It says by Noach, umikol achai, mikol basa shnayim, mikol tovi ala teva, l'chayos itach, to live with you, zachem l'keva yiyu. So what does itach mean? B'daimim l'cha, similar to you. So in other words, we need an animal similar to Noach, and just as Noach is not a treifa, so too the animal should not be a treifa. Fred the Gemara, v'dilma Noach gufa treifa have. Maybe Noach Gufa was a treifa, and therefore the animals also could be a treifa. It says tamim ksiv bei. It says he was tamim. He was tamim in his ways, right? And tamim b'drachav tzadik. It's a tzadik ksiv. It says Gemara v'dilma tamim b'drachav tzadik v'maisav. Okay, so look at nice Rashi guys here. Tamim b'drachav. What's a person tamim b'drachav? Says Rashi 2 words. Anav v'savlin. Patience is a virtue. Patience is more than a virtue. Patience is tamimus, right? That Rashi gives us an idea about tamim drachav. So now the chayra. So maybe that's referring. Tamim is referring to his midas, but enochinami, he's a treifa. So Yisak daydich noyach gufa treifa have mika amalei lenoyach the kavoscha ayel shleimim loyat tayel. In other words, itach. You're supposed to bring someone similar to you. So what's Hashem saying? Like you're a treifa, bring in treifas, and you wouldn't be able to bring in a shala, and you wouldn't be. It's fine the shon. It doesn't make any sense, right? You shouldn't be able to bring in a. So now, if you learn out itach similar to you, so now once it's similar to you, I know you're not mechusei varim. So what I need l'chaya zera for? So itach l'tzavsa ba'alma. I would say maybe itach. I would say that itach with you. It could be any animal, even an alta kachka. Why? Because you just need company. Afilu zaken, afilu saris, even an old one or one's capable of procreating. Kamash malon itach that what l'chaya zera. Not only does it have to be with you, but it has to be with you and capable of procreating. Okay, very interesting thesis over here, guys. Very interesting thesis. The last thesis on the page. So you want to say that that Noach was a treifa, right? Says Taisus, Dilma Noach gufa treifa hava vim taimar v'loichai acher kain gimel meyashana. He lived 300 years after the Mabel. He lived 300 years after the Mabel. So how can you tell me he's a treifa? V'yeshleima d'shema lehoye b'koyach u'briyas karoiloi. Right? V'sugin k'madiyama treifa chaya. In other words, what's the kasha? We hold that a treifa won't make it through the year. And if you're telling me that Noach was a treifa, he made it for 300 years. So says the Gemara, you know really what it means, the kasha? Really we're going to condemn that treifa could live. And we're saying that what? That he says, but he could live. So Memela, it's not a kasha. What would the effect be? He wouldn't be as bekoyach as he's supposed to be. V'Rabbeinu tam hayurog l'chalik bein treifis the adam the treifis the behema. In other words, Ken Zayin, the treifa of a behema will not live, but doesn't mean the treifa adam won't live. So Rabbeinu tam says there's a chilik just because an animal is a treifa, it doesn't mean an adam who would have the corollary treifa. We would say that what he won't live. The mishum the adam islay mazla. What's the reason? Adam has mazla. We have guys like Rashi in the beginning of Baba Kama. Muad la'adam is muad lebehema. In other words, if an animal shtoises 3 times an adam, it's a muad to an animal. A muad la'animal is not a muad to adam. Why? Yeshli mazel. Rashi brings 2 pshatim. 1, he can watch out. He can watch out to avoid the other animal. Or 2, he has a mazel. He has a malach that watches over him. He has a malach that watches over him. So Memela, since Adam has a mazel that watches over him, or he can watch out for himself, he's not like similar, says Rabbeinu Tam, to a treifa, to an animal. Now, there's a Maisa, famous Maisa, that is chaylik on Rabbeinu Tam. Listen to this Maisa. Now, I heard it b'shem of Chaim Moisa. Other people said from the Beis HaLevi. One of the Simone treifis guys is a sircha, is scar tissue on the lung. A matter of fact, that is the term glat kosha. Glat means smooth, means they check the lungs. They don't check for we have a chazaka that an animal is not a treifa. We don't have a chazaka on the lungs. It's such a common problem that you have to check the lungs. They blow up the lungs and no air escapes, it's good. And then if there's no sircha, it's called glat kosha. It's called smooth. There's a machlokes between the Beis HaLevi and the Ramah regarding a sircha, whether this sircha is considered a treifa or not. Says the Beis HaLevi, it's not. Says the Ramah, it is. Good. So that's the machlokes, the Ramah and Beis HaLevi. Obviously, we paskin like the Ramah, and the Sardim paskin like the Beis Yosef. There was a person in Europe who was suffering from a disease of the lungs. And again, I heard it b'shem Reb Chaim Moisa. They said it over b'shem other people also. They went to Reb Chaim Moisa and said the following. He said that I went to the doctor, and the doctor told me that I have this disease and it's not going to be good for me. The Reb Chaim Moisa told him to move to Eretz Yisrael. They said, why? So he goes, here in Europe, we paskin like the Ramah, and here it's a treifa. If you go to Eretz Yisrael, there they paskin like the Beis Yosef. The guy moved to Eretz Yisrael and he lived. So according to that Maisa, you could learn a dimion between what the treifa of an behema to the treifa of an adam. Either way, it's a gavaldik Maisa. So you do it the Maisa, very famous Maisa, like that said, and you live because that they paskin. It's also another inyan that in the place where a person lives, they paskin that way. There's a Gemara Yavamis here, right? There's a Yavamis, right next to you is Yavamis, right there, that's the Yavamis. Pass it down. I'll show you Gevaliga Taisus and Yavamis, guys. Listen to this Taisus. It just jarred my memory. When you go to a place, now Locha is like the person in that place. I think it's Yudalid. I'm not sure. If it's Yudalid, it's good. If it's not Yudalid, then forget about it. There's a famous machloikis whether machshire mitzvah is doicha Shabbos or not. Light, can you carry the knife on Shabbos to go ahead and do a bris milah? Right? Can you carry the knife to do a bris milah or not? So the Gemara here is discussing. The Gemara is here. Tashma the Rabbi ki ikla asri of Yeshua ben Levi. When he got into the place of Yeshua ben Levi, having metaltal sharga, he would carry a lamp. He wouldn't, right? He wouldn't carry it. So you see that it depends on different places. So the Gemara here says, right? In Rabbi Eliezer's place, yeah. So the Gemara here, it seems, we have a famous machloikis fellas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel regarding the Tzoros Erva. Right? Right? Tzoros Erva. So if you go according to Beis Shammai, right, you're not off the hook. In other words, we paskin like Beis Hillel, that the Tzoros Erva paskins. In other words, so if a man marries, his brother has two wives, and one of the wives happens to be the man's daughter, and now his brother dies, and his daughter falls into Yibum, it patches the other one. According to Beis Shammai, not. In the place of Beis Shammai, says that they did according to Beis Shammai. So you see that it goes according to the Makkam, fellas. It goes according to the Makkam. That place is not Yadalit in Yavamis. It goes according to the Makkam. So over here, also in the Maisa, we go according to the Makkam, which would be connected this Taisvis. Okay, I just thought it was interesting. Tahirin Abalai Tamei. And going back over the Brisa, you can bring on, this is before Matan Torah, you can bring a Behemoth Tahor, but you can't bring a Behemoth Tameya. Now, guys, it's before Matan Torah. What's the question? How do they know what a Behemoth Tameya is? How do they know what Behemoth Tameya is? Afer is Afer, right? Me havi Tameim with the Hirin. Bahi Shaita was it what?
They bought the 7.
Oh, so very good. Umi havi Tameim with the Hirin Bahi Shaita. So I'm Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni. I'm Yonasin. May oisa shlei nevda behen avera. Now this girsa, okay, guys, let's go with a different girsa. This is the girsa of the Gemara in Chelik, fellas. Just quickly, we know that the animals they were corrupt. How they know they didn't get a corrupt animal on them on the teva? So it said they passed them by the teva. If the teva took them in, you knew that it was. If the teva shut them out, you knew there was an animal that had been involved in something it shouldn't have been involved in. But we're not discussing that. We're discussing Behemoth Tahira, Behemoth Tameya. Gemara says, Gemara says, by kosher animals there were 7, because he had to be karbonis. Non-kosher animals there were 2. If the Teva allowed 7, you know it's a tardigan animal. If it allowed 2, then not. That's the girsa on the side. Me osam asidim li taher. From those that are in the future li taher. If you have a Gemara on the right side, an Alta Gemara, it's on the right side. If you have the new Gemaras, it's probably a letter on top which you won't find because I'm going weiter. Says the Gemara. So, Menavi Yada. So, Kidrav Chista, Dam of Chista, Havim Lefnei Ateva, Kalash Ateva Kaletes, Biyadu Ashain to Tar. Ain Ateva Kol Tason. If the Teva was not Kailet, Biyadu Ashain to Meya. Ravo Amakra, the Aboyim Zach in the Keva. They came Zach in the Keva. Haboyim Me'aleim. So the 7 that came by itself, they're tahar, and the other ones came by themselves. So nothing to do with the teva; it had to do with the way they came. Amamar, going back over the brisa, v'hakol kirvu oilos, and they were brought oilos in shlamim loy. They brought oilos in not shlamim. V'ksiv v'yizbuch Zevachim shlamim laShem parim. Ela ema hakol kirvu oilos in shlamim loy. Command yama loy kirvu shlamim. So in other words, this brisa goes according to Mandiyama that you didn't bring shlamim. So it seems to be a machloikas. Deitmar that bnei noach didn't bring shlamim. Deitmar. Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. Chadam kirvu shlamim bnei noach. Bnei noachim did bring shlamim. The chadam loy kirvu. In others, they did not bring. My time the Mandiyama kirvu shlamim. What's the source for the Mandiyama that says kirvu shlamim bnei noach? Tichsiv vehevel hevi gamhu v'becharis Sinai, and Hevel also brought from the Becharis Sinai, Umichel Behen, and from their fat. Which is the animal which is the korban that the chaylev is on the mizbeach, vein kuloi karv mizbeach, but not the whole thing like an oila. Haviyam is shlamim. So when it says Chelbeim from Hevel, we see they bought Shlamim. My time the Madiyama loy kirvu. What's the Madiyama says loy kirvu? Dichsiv ureit safoin uboy taimon. What is that? Tisnor uma shemai sebet safoin. It should be agitated. The the nation, whose maisel bit safoin, meaning the goyim, whose whole carbon is an oila, which is brought bit safoin. V'tavay uma shemai sebet safon b'darim, and come and take their place. The Bnei Yisrael, who what? Whose karbonos are not only in the north of the Mizbeach, but afilu shlamim, which is in the south of the Mizbeach. Umar nami v'akasiv umechal behem. What does the one who says they didn't bring shlamim do with the raya from Hevel, which is mashma? It is a shlamim because chel behem. Don't learn chel behem their fats. Learn mishmanehem from their fat ones. They do. He bought from his best, right? He bought from his best. It doesn't mean he bought their fat. He means he bought a gezunta, a festa. Right? He bought a fat one. The one who says that the one who says they did bring shlamim, what do they do with the raya from the fact that urit safin? How be kibbutz galius udichsiv? That's speaking about kibbutz galius. It's not speaking about kabbanis at all. Okay. Ayvok siv ayom Moshe gam ata titem biyadenu Zevachim va'olos. Now usually when you say zevach, guys, it means a shlamim. Usually when you say zevach, it means a shlamim. Okay. So the Gemara answers that doesn't mean a carbon Zevachim. It means a shlamim means Zevachim means meat. Zevachim lachila v'oilus lakrava. Because the only carbon you can bring before Man Torah was an oila. Ayvak siv ayikach yisroi chayshim moishin oilus u'Zevachim. Says that was after Man Torah that they brought the Zevach the shlamim. Dichsiv hanich l'madiyam yisu acha Man Torah el madiyam yisu koydem Man Torah ma'yek l'meim. Big machlokes. Right, machlokes. When did Yisro come? After the war, after Kriyas Yamsuf, the first Rashi in Yisro, after Amalek, but not after Matan Torah. Another point after Matan Torah. Michael, remember did Bnei Reb Chia bar Bnei Reb Chia Reb Yoshim and Shub Levi Chadama Yisro koydem Matan Torah v'Chadama Yisro acha Matan Torah L'man yom Yisro koydem Matan Torah hayak sava shlam mekrivu Bnei Noach. Right. He says that he kitanoi. It's machlokes tanoim. Vayishma Yisro koyin midyon mashmu shama ubam niskayer. Rabbi Shua oyim melchemes Amalek shama shari ksiv b'tzidoi vayechlash Yeshua es Amalek v'yes amoy lefi charev. So you see it speaking of that. Rabbi Lazar amudoy oyim matan Torah shama uba shekeshenitne Torah liyisrael hayikoyla hoylech misleifay leman sleifay. When Torah was given, it went from one end of the world to the other end of the world. Okay, just stop for 1 second. I had a problem with this. I tell you, like them on the Omer that they bought shlamim. I once heard a shot from a Avigdor Miller, which really, really resonated with me, and I repeated it quite a few times. You're in Parshas Shmos. You're going to get to Parshas Bo. You're going to spend in Parshas Bo the mamish. How many mitzvahs are with the Korban Pesach? Mamish Korban Pesach is a unique korban, right? Probably the first communal korban in the history of the world. Every other korban was a personal korban. It was a korban of a yachid. The first communal korban brought was the Chenufya, but with the publicity was the Korban Pesach. Rabbi Miller said something very geschmack. He said that Bnei Yisrael, the Mitzrayim made fun of us. They're like the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, treated the Jews like rats, like garbage. The Mitzrayim did the same. They held us, we're Ivrim, Avram Ivri. You're unter mention, you're Ivrim. You're not from uns, the best mention, you're Ivrim. What did Hashem do? He said, Ivrim, they're Yisrael. I can overcome anything. What did Hashem do? He went ahead and he did something unbelievable. He said, here's a korban. Bring part to me, and I'm going to share it with you. Until then, there was only oilus. There's no havamina to go ahead and who am I to share a korban with God? So the whole oil goes to God. Now you have, the first time in history, you have a korban that's being brought, right? And it's showing the Mitzrayim, not only are we lowlives, we are highlights. We are choshev. We're going to go ahead and we can go ahead and eat a korban with Hashem. Mishulchan gavoya kazachu. So that's a great vart. But it only goes according to Mandiyama that they didn't bring shlamim. Like the man that did bring shlamim, doesn't work, right? So, but it goes according to that Mandiyama. It's a great pshat in Korban Pesach. I liked it so much. It resonated with me. But it only goes according to Mandiyama, who says that what? They didn't bring shlamim. What?
This is Pesach the rest of the year. It was a shlamim.
Pesach the rest of the year is a shlamim. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, you have an agarata here describing Matan Torah shtickle. Yeah, but and I got it over here. Whether Yisro came before Man Torah or not is the Machlokes Tanoim. Let's go over it again. Vayishma Yisro came Midyon Mashmu Shama. This guy, what did he hear? He came in with Megayer. Uh, This Rabbi Yeshua Mechemes Amalek Shama Shari Ksiv B'Tzidoi. It says Vayachalosh Yeshua Es Amalek Ves Amoy Lefi Chorev. V'Loz Amoydoy Omam Matan Torah Shama Uba Shekashinit Netor Yisrael Hayakoyloi the Koil of Hakadosh Baruch Hu Haylech Misayfer and Mitzayfer. The whole world knew about it. V'Chol Malchi Avdi Kechavim Achsasan V'Oda Behechal Leihem. In all the kings in the Hecholim in the palaces, the Chapta Atzuk. They were mamish like a Shrek, not Shrek. No, that is Shrek. Tzuk is a cold. They chapta Shrek. They right. V'amru Shiran Shnemar. It says by Matan Torah, Kol Hashem Yichol Al Yolos, and then it says Ve'icholoi Kuloi Amid Kavod. So why was Kol Hashem Yichol Al Yolos? The voice of Hashem is Yichol Al Yolos, and what happens to Ve'icholoi Kuloi Amid Kavod, and all in Ve'icholoi, all the kings. And the hechel of each melech, they were mechaber HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The skapsul malachim kula meitzel Bilam Rasha. They came to Bilam. V'yamulu ma kol ha'amoyin sheshemanu. What's this? We heard Shema Mabel Balayla. Maybe an earthquake. Maybe the Mabel's coming to the world. Shnema Hashem LeMabel Yashav. What does it say in Tehillim? It says Hashem LeMabel Yashav. Amalehem Bilam said no. Yeshav Hashem Melech Ha'olam. Nishba HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is guys is pshat in that capital of Tehillim that you say, but kol Hashem LeMoyim, right? This is pshat. He says, "Vayish Hashem Elach Olam." Kfar Nishba Kadosh Baruch Hu Sheinu maybe Mabel Olam. Zog Zichnish. You don't have to worry. He's not going to bring a Mabel to the world. So Amaloi Mabel Shal Mayim ain't a maybe. Have a Mabel Shal Eish maybe the destroy fire. Shnemar says He ve'Eish Hashem Nishbat. It says that Hashem and Nishbat and Eish. So Amalehem Bilam said to him, "Kfar Nishba Kadosh Baruch Hu already swore Sheinu Mashlas Kol Basa." He's not going to destroy everything. Uma Kol. What was that voice? Shemanu. Amalehem Chemda Toiva Yesh Layu. His Mamash Kadosh Baruch Hu had this Chemda Beveis Genoisav. He had this treasure in his house Genusim. Shoyse Genusa Etzlei Tov Kuf Ala Dalad Doiros. It was there for 974 years. Koidim Shnevra Olam. Yeah, 26 years before the year 1000. He was going to give it to 1000, but he gave it early. Ubikshus Litin Lebanav Shnemar Hashem Ois Le'ama Yitain. Hashem Ois his Torah La'amo to his nation Yitain. Miyad Pasul Kulam Vam Hashem Yivarech Hasam B'Shalom. Hashem should bless them. And interesting that the mamish beautiful pshat there in that.
They didn't get it.
Yeah, they don't get again. You can have a nachman. I heard that the Arabs they say like when all these miracles happen. Oh yeah, the God of the Jews is watching them. So why do they keep on doing it? For the time where they won't be watched. For the time where they won't be watched. I heard of Shmuel Bimam say, when the 9/11 happened, he said, Hashem showed us what can happen. When Shem Yisrael, Shemer Sherish Yisrael, if Hashem is not Shemer even for a split second, look what can possibly happen. We're unaware how we're totally, the danger that's there all the time. And we can't be massive at what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does at every single moment. There was a video going around. A guy, Polanski, Pachevsky, something, Uri something. A guy, I think he lived in Fairlawn. You know what I'm talking about? Lenny, you know what I'm talking about?
Uri Pilichowski.
Yes.
He was a Fairlawn
In
guy?
Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, so he put out a video.
Mitzvah Yericho.
He went through everything, all the nisim that just occurred recently that's unbelievable. And
Right.
you just have to take account of it. Really, it's amazing. So that's really so the nations could know. They heard about Mount Torah. It doesn't make a difference. You're still not gonna. I have a pshat. I don't know if it's true. I've said it many times. In order to be a ger, we asked this kasha. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah when it discussed the relationship between Marcus Aurelius and Rebbe, and Marcus Aurelius says to Rebbe, "Well, I have a chelik in the next world. Become a ger. You'll have a chelik in the next world." So I wanted to say, I don't know if it's true. In order to be a ger, your neshama had to be by Sinai. In order to be a ger, those are there today, not there today. But the neshama had to be there. So Ken Zain, you could have the idea of God. It doesn't make a difference. If you don't have a Jewish soul, it's not happening. Again, I don't know if it's true. it resonates with me. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense to answer answer up this Gemara, right? There's such an idea and everything, and they bench the Jews. So as was, aber nicht, right? You're not from the Amanifcha. That's the way it is. Okay. Anyway, and that's what it says. Rabbi Lozo, I heard Kriyas Yamsuf Ubash Nemar Vahi Kishmo Kol Malchi Amori. When all the Malchi Amorim they heard, right, that the Jews were coming in, they were terrified. The Af Rachav Azoyna Amal Shluchai Yeshua and Rachav, when Pinchas and Kalev went into Eretz Yisrael. Pinchas and Kalev, was it Pinchas and Kalev? Yes, yeah. Pinchas and Kalev went in to check out Yericho, and she tells them, we heard that Kadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and he dried up the Yamsuf. It says they didn't have any ruach. It says by Rachav, she says leikama oid ruach beish. By Malachei Amori, it says that Malachei Amori, it says lahoya bam oid ruach, but it says leikama oid ruach beish. The men were not able to go ahead. Rachel was a Zaina, and they were not able to go ahead and have relations with her because they were not capable of having relations, because they couldn't be miskasha, they couldn't get hard because of the fear. That was the lashon of. By it says by Rachel, it says lekama oid ruach, lashon of kama. How would she know? The mamar. There was no Saru Nugget who didn't have relations with Rachav Azayna. Amru Bas Yud Shonim Hoysa Kashiyatzi Yisrael Mitzrayim. She was 10 years old when they came out of Mitzrayim. Vidzonsa called Mem Shona, and for 40 years she had snus. Shal Yisrael B'Midbar. Acha Nun Shona Niskaira, and then she became a Gary after the age of 50. And she married Yeshua bin Nun. She married Yeshua bin Nun, and they only had girls. They only had girls, no boys. Why?
One night that he kept the people from learning something.
So he stopped the people from learning. He bought the Aron in the Machna. I think he bought the Aron in the Machna, so it stopped. He bought the Aron and them. No, it wasn't Vatlam for learning. He bought the Aron the Machnes and Vatlam for Peri Verivia. So Mida Kneg and Mida, they couldn't live with their wives because the Aron was in their midst. He bought it there because he wanted to give them a chizuk. And then Mida Kneg Mida, he married Bracha. Amra, Yimachali B'schar Chebel Chaloinu Pishtim. Rashi speaks out, her house was in the wall. So the Noyafim, the people who were with her, they would climb up the rope, go through the window, and Pishtim, they would be hiding Pishtim if someone would come. So when she hid Kalev and Pinchas. I think she hid only one of them, Pinchas Samalach, okay, whatever. And she hid him in Pishtim, they couldn't find him, and she let them out the window down the rope. So with the three things that she used to do an Avera with, she used to be Mechapa with. That's Rashi brings over there. Omamar. They're able to go ahead, and Bismanazeh, they're able to go ahead right and bring with Bama. That a guy can go ahead and bring on a Bama Bismanazeh. That's what then we're just finishing off the Brisa. That's what the Brisa said. To bring on a Bama. Minani Mili, the Tanur Rabbanon, it says by Shchutei Chutz, it says Dabel Bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael Mitzuv Mashchutei Chutz. It's a din that's unique to Bnei Yisrael. The Fika Kolecha V'Echad, any guy Boinel Abam Atzmai can build a private mizbeach v'makar v'lo kol mashiyirtza and do whatever he wants. Amar Yaakov Baracha Amar Rav Asi Asa L'Sayah. However, a Jew who has the Isra Bamis cannot help them. Ulashu Sichusan. Not only can't you help them, you can't do the shlichus. So Amar Rabba Ula Raino Lehushari. It's mutter for Yisrael to teach them what to do. Ki Hod the Ifra Hurmiz. Ima the Shava Malka. Ifra Humis was a king of Persia, a queen of Persia, the mother of Shava Malka. Shadra Kurbana L'Rava. She sent her carbon to Rava. Shalchai Rava. She said, "Askul Ne'alei L'Shem Shemayim. Bring it up L'Shem Shemayim." Now she didn't expect him to bring it up, but now Rava is going to teach the goyim how to bring up a carbon. Amalhu Rav Sel Rav Safra Ularav Acha Barhuna Zilu Vidabru Trey Olme Guloi. Rashi says bring two Bachrim who are the same age. Seems to be a hiddur for a carbon to have. I think I saw a pshat fellas, just like by a carbon by the seirim of Yom Kippur, they're supposed to look the same, right? They're supposed to be the same age, same height. So too, so to bring the carbon, you should have twins, people who look the same. The chazal heiche demaske siraton, and look when the sea brings up the sediment. The shaklut si vicharati, take brand new wood. V'afiki nura, and so you go down to this place where the sediment's there, and you bring new wood and bring a v'afiki nura mimora charata from a new piece of metal. Go ahead and strike up the match. Vasku and then bring the carbon l'shem shemayim. This is what you said to bring up a carbon. Again, there's machlokes what they could bring. Amalei Abaye says l'Rava kiman, who right that you're saying that when you said that you can mark the carbon with eitzim that shalei yishtamish ben adam, guys, you're seeing new eitzim, right? Mashma old eitzim that people used was no good. So who's that according to? Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua. The Tanya Elazar ben Shemua Omer, Ma mizbeach shalei yishtamish behedyet, just like the mizbeach that you bring a carbon on a head you can't use it. Af eitzim, so to the eitzim shalei yishtamish behedyet. So therefore you had to bring new wood to make sure it wasn't wood that was used by an individual. From Moeder of Elazar ben Shemua bibama, that you don't need wood. The Tanya Kasav echad Omer, one pasuk says, Vayitain David la'arnon. Okay, the background over here, guys, is David HaMelech knew that there was a hashchasa, there was a magefa in Klal Yisrael, and David found the malach magefa was by the goyrin of a Ravna HaYevusi. A Ravna, or in this case Arnon, he was the Yevusi, and he owned this land, and that's the makom of the Mikdash. That's the makom of Mizbeach and makom of Mikdash. And it's talking about buying it from him, and he's going to offer up a carbon, and Pasha is going to offer up a carbon with old wood, and that's going to be the kasha. Okay, so let's see it inside. Let's see what's going on over here. So, the time okay, that we did. By a bama that you could use old wood. The Tanya, that's a Ravna. B'makim for his place shaklei zahav mishkal sheish meyos. He gave him shkolim of zahav of golden shkolim 600 shkolim of zahav. Ukasiv vayikin David es hagarin, and David acquired the garin ves habakar, and the bakar b'kesav shkolim chamishim. So you have a problem. You got 600 pieces of gold and 50 pieces of silver. Which one did he use? So okay, sad. From all 12 shvatim, he corrected 50. What's 50 times 12? Is 600. And that's Sheish Meyos, that's a total of 600. Rabbi Yomi Mishum Abba Yosi ben Dustoi, Baka ve'etzim u'makam Mizbeach benun. The Baka of a Ravna and the eitzim of a Ravna, he bought for 50. The Chalabayis Kula and the rest of the bias is B'Sheish Meyos. So again, the eitzim, makam Mizbeach benun. Rav Elazar ben Shmuel, Baka ve'etzim u'makam Mizbeach benun. He bought Baka, eitzim, makam Mizbeach nun, b'chol habayis kula b'sheish meyos. Tichsiv, vayomer Rav Nel David, yikach vayala doni hamelech, hatoy ve'enov, go ahead, reha Baka la'oila, the Baka that of the wagon should be la'oila, v'hamurigim, we'll see what that is in a second, v'kliya Baka la'eitzim. Now, Pashtus, the kalim of the Baka was used already. So you see that what Rav Elazar ben Shmuel said, you bought this. So how can you tell me that what? You have to bring new wood. You see, by a bama, you can bring old wood, because this is a bama. There was also new, so it was new wood, and therefore the Rava held, since it was new wood, even by bama, you have to use new wood. Okay, tomorrow just a few facts about this incident. My murigim, what is exactly murigim? So Amaula is mita shel turbal. Great. Great. My mita shel turbal. What's the mita of turbal? Amar Abaya, Iza the karkasa the daisha dishoy. Some type of implement that it was shaped like a goat that they would use for threshing. Amar Abaya Mikra, right? What's the pasuk? Right. So well, you know this parsha? I see if I missed the parsha. Oh, you know the Haftarah. Mikra hine Samticha lemoirag chorwitz chodosh bal pepiyos. So it seems to be it's something that what? It's something that has piyos, it has blades to it, and that seems what it is. And okay, weiter. Makrile Rav Lebrei for Romile Kroadadi. Ksiv Ayitin David La'aranoin, he gave him 600. Ksiv Ayitin David for 50. Okay, tzad. Goivim Mikol Shevet Shevet Chamishim Shein Sheish Meyos. Vakati Koshan Adadi. So good. Hasam Kesef Hachasav. So good. You didn't explain, guys. You explained the denominations, the numbers. You didn't explain the difference between silver and gold. So in that the Gemara answers El Hachi Kamar. Goiva Kesef v'Mishkol Sheish Meyos Zahav. Go ahead and get kesef that weighs as much as what? Sheish Meyos Zahav.